David, here we are again. I've got my jacket on today to distinguish me from you because we look alike.
Still look like the Mitchells.
Still look like a couple of prison officers, don't we?
Absolutely.
Good to be back, though.
Yeah, you've been in Scotland for a week.
Yeah, I went home for about 10 days.
How was Caledonia?
Same as it ever was, really. But it's different when you go back, isn't it? It's cheaper. Strangers don't say hello in the streets. But everybody's still obsessed by Trump. You find that?
Well, I was in Ireland 2 weeks ago. I find they were kind of over Trump, still fascinated in how America decided he was the best man for the White House. I'm David Blevins in Washington, D.C.
And I'm James Matthews, and we're both here in the Trump 100 studio. The US-Iran peace talks. It looks like they're going ahead, but don't ask the president about the travel arrangements. Donald Trump doesn't seem to be across the detail.
But he has said he's willing to meet senior Iranian leaders if there is a breakthrough in peace talks.
And 11 American scientists are either dead or missing. What's happened to them? We may be about to find out.
And the Trump administration gets experimental as the president loosens restrictions on psychedelic drugs.
David, first, these US-Iran peace talks, won't they take place in Pakistan? There is, I think it's fair to say, confusion to the whole context as the clock ticks down, of course, towards the end of a fragile ceasefire. It looks like there's every chance they will go ahead. As we record, Vice President J.D. Vance, he's due to travel to Islamabad on Tuesday with his fellow negotiators, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. So far, so encouraging, even if the noise is off, well, they don't sound too great. Listen to the moment that a US warship warned and then opened fire on an Iranian flag tanker. This was in the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, we gave the flare. Now we're getting...
Doesn't sound like peacemaking to me. Following that exchange, US Marines abseiled onto that vessel, James, and took control of it.
Yeah.
It remains in American hands, part of the US plan to blockade Iranian ports in the Strait. And that's a complication, to say the least, with the two sides in this conflict preparing for fresh negotiations. Iran has threatened to retaliate.
Yeah, at the time of recording the ceasefire, it's due to finish on Wednesday evening. Donald Trump has said it's highly unlikely he will extend that, although, we'll see. He has posted on Truth Social talking about the length of time that wars have taken in the past. The First World War, Vietnam, the Korean War. He lists the time. David, any guesses how long did that take?
No idea.
Well, he knows down to the day. 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days, he said the Korean War went on for. The point he's making is that his Iran involvement has been far quicker. We've got all the time in the world, he says. I'm under no pressure. And he says he won't be rushed into making a bad deal. He does, for me, a good impression of a president playing for time, acknowledging that time is what he needs. I think that's what he's doing in these Truth Social posts. We are led to believe from US officials, and they've been saying this for a few days, that talks behind the scenes are proving productive, even if that doesn't quite sit with the saber rattling.
No limit to that playing for time. 47 posts in one night over the weekend. He remains a man fond of the Truth Social platform. Now, Iran has also sent some mixed signals on the issue over the last few days. After the attack on the cargo ship, they said they wouldn't be participating in talks at all, claiming the ceasefire had now been breached. But that has changed. They've since told the New York Times they will participate as long as the vice president turns up.
Yeah, part of the problem, I think, David, has to be the question of who the Americans are dealing with, who holds sway between the politicians that they are talking to in Tehran and the military, the IRGC. Where does power lie in terms of not just the negotiations themselves, but in who could be trusted to implement any outcome?
Yeah, Iran sees itself as strengthened by this war, and it has some killer cards to play, the Strait of Hormuz among them, clearly. And it wants to resist any appearance of surrender, which is Donald Trump's problem too. He's sensitive to the perception of weakness, acutely aware of criticism right now.
Yeah, we see that on his social media account. He posted that Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. Clearly, that's been a criticism leveled at him. He says the results of October the 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. He didn't mention the Strait of Hormuz in that Truth Social post, which, of course, that's become his other very significant challenge in all of this. And as things stand, it taunts him with the spectre of failure, that waterway being choked as it is by the Iranians.
And right now, it just feels like we're going round and round in circles as Trump tries to find an off-ramp that would allow him to declare victory in this. Now, James, we want to talk about a story that's been circulating online for a while and has now caught the attention of Congress. The House Oversight Committee on Capitol Hill has launched an investigation into a series of mysterious deaths or disappearances, all of them American scientists who have worked on sensitive space and defence issues.
Yeah, conspiracy theory alert on this one. But you're right, David. Nearly a dozen American scientists have reportedly died or gone missing in the past 3 years. Many had top secret security clearances, and they worked in areas like nuclear research, rocket technology, aerospace, and defense. Inevitably, that combination of facts has sent the internet into overdrive. The president, well, he was asked about this on Thursday, and even he struck a pretty cautious tone, not necessarily like him.
Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half. I just left a meeting on that subject, so pretty serious stuff, but we're going to be hopefully, I don't know, coincidence, if you whatever you want to call it, but some of them were very important people, and we're going to look at it over the next short time.
This is one of those stories that could lead you down a rabbit hole. An invitation for conspiracy theorists, as you say, and we've seen how this administration likes to court them, sometimes lighting fires it's later unable to extinguish. So let's just take a step back and stick to the facts, because they alone are enough to raise eyebrows. Mm-hmm. Michael David Hicks, for example, worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory from 1998 until 2022. He died in 2023, but no cause of death has ever been made public, and there's been no autopsy report released.
Amy Eskridge was an anti-gravity researcher. She was warned in 2022 that her life could be in danger. She was reportedly looking into ways to control or cancel out gravity. Research that, and if it worked, that could revolutionize space travel and energy production. She died in June 2022 at the age of 34. Her death was ruled suicide.
And then there's retired Air Force General William Neil McCasland, who disappeared earlier this year from his home in Albuquerque. According to reports, he left without his phone or prescription glasses, but with a .38 caliber revolver.
Yeah, there was another case. Monica Reza, she was a NASA employee and a director of a lab materials processing group. She went missing while she was hiking in June 2023.
Yeah, just some of the 11 cases in question. All of these people worked in highly sensitive areas. Many had top-level security clearances, which raises the obvious question, will we ever get full answers?
Who knows? Yeah, it's a question certainly being addressed in the corridors of power now. The House Oversight Committee, it's saying it wants to hear directly from the Pentagon, the FBI, the Department of Energy, and from NASA. In a letter, the committee's chair, James Comer, wrote, "If the reports are accurate, these deaths and disappearances may represent a grave threat to US national security and to US personnel with access to scientific secrets."
It's very important to say that none of this at this stage proves wrongdoing, of course. Several of these cases already have official explanations. But the investigation does mean questions will now be asked publicly rather than being left to speculation online.
Yeah, it makes a change. But that's probably the key point, David, isn't it? As you say, this is an administration obsessed somewhat with conspiracy. The White House, it's the Wuhan for a whole number of them, UFOs. There's a Pentagon study coming soon on that. The JFK files, they were released by Donald Trump. And, conspiracy and cover-up generally is becoming something of a national sport in this country. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get answers from the committee. It is worth noting, I would say, the Department of Energy, it has been investigating already. It says it's not found anything alarming yet.
A national sport fueled perhaps by social media.
What isn't?
Okay, James, President Trump surprises us often, but this was a whole other level over the weekend. He signed an executive order in the White House to fast-track research and access to, now wait for it,
Go on.
psychedelics. They are hallucinogenic drugs that alter your mental state.
All right, don't do it, kids.
Various Republicans have been speaking about how these drugs are a revolutionary treatment for veterans and others suffering from various conditions, depression, trauma, and addiction.
Now, President Trump has acknowledged that these psychedelics could help military veterans. And he said this move to fast-track research would dramatically accelerate access to treatments. He said over 14 million American adults have a serious mental illness. And he said about 8 million are on prescription medication for these conditions. And then he said this.
Can I have some, please? I'll take some. I'll take whatever it takes.
Yep, you heard that right. The President of the United States, leader of the free world, joking about taking these things called psychedelics in the Oval Office. The president, well, he also announced that the federal government is making a $50 million investment for further research into the drug ibogaine. It's another psychedelic. It's a plant-based drug, and research published in a medical journal flagged that it can bring potentially fatal risks to the heart.
Standing beside the president during that signing was, of course, the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Speaking of hallucinogenic drugs.
We discussed some of his curious incidents with animals on our last episode. But what was equally interesting was that the podcast host, Joe Rogan, was also there for the announcement. Now, he's recently been rather critical of the president, especially regarding how Trump has dealt with the conflict in Iran. Perhaps this is a way to get him back on side?
Yeah, I think you might be right, David. During that signing, Rogan, he spoke about texting Trump, speaking about the ibogaine drug, and the president responded to him, and his text read this: "Sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it."
Currently, no psychedelic has been approved in the United States, but a number of them are being studied in large trials for various mental health conditions. But two states, Oregon and Colorado, have legalized psychedelic therapy with the drug psilocybin. This does mark a shift in tone on drugs. For decades, Republicans have talked about the war on drugs. You remember Nancy Reagan, just say no? They've always backed harsh sentencing.
Zamo Maguire, but carry on.
They've always backed harsh sentencing and policies that treated addiction as a criminal issue rather than a health condition. Over the last few months, though, we've had the likes of Rick Perry, the former Texas governor and Secretary of Energy under the first Trump administration, push for more research looking into drugs to help veterans. Texas itself has allocated tens of millions of dollars for psychedelic research initiatives focused on ibogaine. Is that how it's pronounced?
Who knows? I know we know what you mean, David. But listen, your point about Joe Rogan, that's well made. He's in the company of a president who was very much fluttering his eyelashes at the weekend. Rogan, arguably, is the man who put Trump back in the White House. He has this influential podcast, influential with young males, and he turned that vote to Trump before the election. Since Trump got in, of course, he's been critical of ICE raids, critical of the Iran war, two key policy areas. So the president needs him on side. He wants him inside the tent, and that's why he was inside the Oval Office. And of course, it won't surprise you to know there's a financial angle to all of this. Shares in biotech firms and companies providing the therapy, well, they soared following the weekend's announcement. That's to make no comment, clearly, on the usefulness or effectiveness of these drugs. seek medical advice before you use anything.
So we're not sure how to say psilocybin. We're not sure how to say ibogaine, but at least we know how to say acetaminophen.
Speak for yourself.
The president's favorite word. I'm not sure who's on a trip though, President Trump or us right now. Psychedelics on a Saturday, the Holy Bible on a Tuesday. We're about to hear the president read the Bible in the Oval Office, part of a marathon Bible reading event to mark 250 years since American independence.
Yeah, and we'll be covering it all chapter and verse, so do say a prayer for us. We've already had Pete Hegseth doing Pulp Fiction. I wonder if this will be the president's Father Ted moment.
It reminds me of that Father Dougal moment.
Go on.
Is there anything to be said for saying another mass? That's all for today on Trump 100.
Yeah, before we go though, David, the question I want to know is, did you get my Zamo Maguire reference?
No, I didn't.
Grange Hill.
I just smiled politely.
Yeah, I'm sure he was the original Just Say No, and it was copied by the Americans. I might have that wrong, but
I'll take your word for it.
I tell you, the demographic of our audience, because we research these things, is 55 to 64 largely. That's the kind of the core vote. And I know they'll be with me on the Grange Hill reference.
In the prime of their lives. That's all for today on Trump 100.
Do get in touch with your memories, nostalgia, Grange Hill memories, all of that stuff, or indeed any helpful comments or suggestions. Trump100@sky.uk is the email if you want to or need to get in touch. Thanks very much again for listening and for watching.
Yeah, bye-bye for now.
All the best.